Pod.
Rugby pod. Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Pod, where suddenly we find ourselves, Andrew, at the business end of the season. Where did the year go? Where did the season go? Thank God it's over. I'm joking.
It's not over yet, James, because the race for the top 8 in the URC and the run-in for the Premiership and the semi-finals and who's going to be where, who's going to get in the top 8 in the URC, who's going to make the top 4 in the Prem. All the action is on the pitch. It is hotting up, James. But rugby is also potentially poised to go through a franchise revolution, apparently. So what do you know, Jim?
Andrew, I don't know anything, but I do know there's a potential, well, there's not a potential, it's happening, that there's going to be a rugby version of the IPL happening in India. So we've got a special guest on to talk us all through that. It's not cricket. This is rugby. It's the Rugby Pod. So you know what to do, ladies and gentlemen. Boys and girls, I know you listen, you shouldn't be because we do swear. I'm going to swear less on this episode, but settle back, enjoy, and make sure you're subscribed on the #1 music, audio, podcast, championship, legendary platform, Spotify.
There you go. Nice, Jim. How are you, pal? You well?
Andrew, I'm very well, mate. I'm good. I'm back in the land of living. I was going to say the land of hope. It doesn't feel like that. I don't want to be negative. But I'm back. I'm home. Kids are back at school. We've had a great time, Andrew. You're looking very sun-kissed, a.k.a. burnt, a.k.a. stroked. And, yeah, following your social medias. I don't know if you're in the gym every day, but I did see a different T-shirt in the gym, and I'm happy that you're in there. I don't want to give you too much stick, but I know you're trying to build your social footprint. You're trying to do a bit more on social media. But, yeah, just stop eating, mate. Stop going to Nobu, please. Just be more humble.
Mate, I've been here 9 mornings and I've been to the gym on 9 mornings. It's a little habit I've got now, just going to the gym. Big Mike has sent me some sessions. They're on rotation. And I'm working hard, Jim. I've got to work off the Nobu somehow. So, yeah, it's been good. But like you said, the kids are back at school for you. I can't wait to get the kids back to school. But there's been plenty going on the rugby field as well, right?
Yes, there has, mate. There has. My Sarri's back in the hunt for top 4 is all I know. I say that, sorry. My Gloucester as well. It was a proper ding-dong.
And your Leicester.
Yeah, Leicester had a hell of a win. Some good ruggers at the weekend, actually. Some big away victories. And as we said, the top 4 race in the Prem's hotting up. The top 8 race in the URC is hotting up. And we're here to discuss it.
Well, how about, before we get into it this week, how about I hit you with a philosophical question?
What does that mean first, Rob? So tell me what philosophical means from your point of view.
I don't know, I did it on ChatGPT. I said, typed it in and said, make me sound smarter asking this. Basically, what I want to know is, should rugby be more like football?
What does that mean?
Well, so did you see this weekend that the Sarries and Gloucester game, they trialled the away fan sections,
yes,
segregating the fans into home and away?
I wouldn't say they segregated them, Rob, because that is football, right? I don't think that the shed head or the shed webs or the shed web hands needed to be segregated from the Sarries fans. But I know what you mean. That was a big talking point, actually, in the lead up to these games, was around having the away fans, yeah, I'm going to say it, segregated in their own end, which, as we know, football has always done that. There's a tribalism, but that's not done to try and build an atmosphere. That's done so they don't put cigarettes out on each other's eyeballs, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Yeah.
It's quite funny, isn't it? So you're doing these trials, and there's probably good reason for doing the trials, right? Let's try something different. Let's try and make it more raucous at stadiums and try and build that tribalism around Premiership and whatever. But when you've got Gloucester fans saying, I want to go home. London's a shithole. I want to go home. They're acting like football fans.
But are they right? Hang on, just to go back with the chant, Andrew. Are they right on the last line that London's a shithole? It depends which part.
Well, it depends which part, and it also depends whether you're from Cheltenham or Gloucester, because I'm hearing Gloucester ain't great. I lived in Cheltenham, and Cheltenham's beautiful, but these Gloucester fans singing it, where are you from? Where are you? Let's be having you. So, I don't know. It's funny, because they did the Tottenham one as well, and the Tottenham chant that all the Arsenal fans do. The Arsenal fans sing, what do we think of Tottenham? shit. What do we think of shit? Tottenham. The Gloucester fans were singing, what do we think of Saracens? Shit. What do we think of shit? Saracens. We hate Saracens. We hate Saracens. And they're all singing it. So
yeah, but I can come up with better lyrics than these fans. With Coventry, it was we hate Villa and we hate Villa. As in we, number 8. Like me and the lads had we, number 8 on the back, Villa. Like absolute banter. Yeah, for me, just on this, Andrew, let me just say this, and I don't want to be negative on it, but there's an element of embarrassment when I hear about these changes and trying to improve the game. There's this desperate collaboration of change. It needs to stop now. It really does. I don't know who's making the decision. I actually quite like the away fans bit. I do. I'll be honest. I think it adds to maybe like a narrative, especially when you've got a travelling fan group like the Gloucester fans and the Shed Webs or the Shed Heads or whatever you want to call them. And like we all know about the Shed and at Gloucester, and anyone can be in the Shed, but it is a little bit tribal in there and it can be a bit hostile as well. I'm into all that. But the fact that we're talking about it and a deal was being made over it, I mean, it just feels like let's just get on with it. Like, let's be having you. I don't know what's going on. Or start putting fags out on people's eyeballs and really causing a stir.
It's interesting because, like, they talk about rugby being a game for everyone and all inclusive, yet you're segregating fans. So make your minds up, right?
Yeah, but they're looking at the top 14
as
well. The top 14's been a success, as you know. That's the barometer. And if we're looking to France, Goodey, maybe that's why they're looking at doing something like that.
Yeah, I hear you, but then I suppose the other side of it is the top 14, and we've got to understand it's very different to what is the Premiership. The top 14 is a tribal situation because rugby, predominantly in the south of France, there's 2 teams in Paris. You know, there's La Rochelle on one coast, but where you look at the heartlands of rugby there, it is a religion in those cities, and it has been for years and years and years, and they're ahead of football in a lot of those cities. So the difference is, you know, we, as a rugby game in our country, we haven't got that tribal aspect because we're all, it's a nice game, we're all inclusive, and fans can sit together. So it means it's not tribal, but we have to be growing the clubs and the individuals and making superstars out of these lads and spreading the game as much as possible to really try and regenerate and grow this game of rugby. And they're talking about this situation in the Premiership now about making it franchised and everything that goes with that. I just don't know what's going on, Jim. I've got no idea.
Well, I don't think anyone knows what's going on. I think for me, there's bigger conversations to be had around the Premiership. And look, we'll talk about this kind of no news about the franchise and stuff like that. But I think the glaringly obvious one for me was the news that broke last week about Rieko Ioane getting a sabbatical to come to play in the URC and to play at Leinster. And then there's this age-old debate now, isn't it, with Jack Willis being the headline one, the fact that you can't play for England. Actually, something like this, I think, is beneficial because it could be working both ways, can't it? But the Premiership at the minute isn't a destination for the best players in the world. The URC now is. Like, the URC is leading the way and leading the innovation, like, authentically, and they're ready because they've got teams with big financial backers. But for me, that was the biggest news that came out of last week was about Rieko Ioane. And that got me thinking, was like, how do you get what Saracens got before, where you got second string players like myself, absolute legends of the game, playing for Sarries. But I mean, Scout Berger and Will Skelton and these players, like Andre Pollard is leaving Leicester. They ain't replacing him with a Bowden Barrett, and that's a football model. So going back to Rob's question, if you're looking at the football model, you look at Jude Bellingham, right? Jadon Sancho when he was playing over there as well, when Beckham went over to play. Like, I think there should be an innovation around that before we start thinking about these low-hanging fruits that aren't going to shift the dial. But one thing I will say on that franchise question, when you look at an NFL model, Jim's talking about NFL or fucking South Africans again, but they are, South Africa are a leading team in what they're doing on the field. The NFL are a leading franchise in sport globally on what they're doing off the field. So if you were to look at what a franchise model means within the NFL, it's around merchandise, it's around creating superstars, it's around ownership of the team, it's around inclusion within the league. Everyone's on the same page commercially. And I don't know enough about the game. I don't think even the people at the top of the tree know enough about what's going on. But that's what you're talking about with the franchise. There's no real difference to an owner of a club being able to invest in the game. We'll talk about the franchise bit in a little bit around that. But football, that's what they're doing. They've got an owner. They've got an owner of the team. Messi goes to Miami, into Miami to go and play. And they leverage that player coming in, everything around it with merchandise and e-gaming and all of these different things. There's so much to learn from other sports, but I agree with you, mate. We need to get our house in order first. The house is burnt down at the minute. Too negative. Rob, too negative.
Rob basically is not happy because Newcastle, and there was a great piece, wasn't there, on TNT on Friday night with Mickey Ward, the ultimate Newcastle man, and talking about how, and Steve Diamond said it as well, around how important a club like Newcastle is and the geography of that situation, because you need a team in the north. And I haven't seen the stat, but I heard there was a stat that came out around how many players that have played for England have come from north of Manchester or Manchester north, and it's a hell of a lot. Yeah, it was a massive number in terms of the percentage of players that have played for England over time. And in reality, that shows the importance of a team like Newcastle, the areas, the grassroots club game up in the north of England, and how the RFU need to invest in that area and making sure that we have a Newcastle, we have a Sale, Sharks. If you are going down the franchise model, you need 2 or 3 teams up there. It can't just be around the Southwest and London and a couple of clubs in the Midlands, because the game dies then.
Well, isn't that one of the major reasons for this new franchise model then? Because what the that Telegraph article sort of said was that relegation and the whole uncertainty around clubs going down is one of the major turn-offs why rugby isn't attracting new investors. So that's kind of why this whole
complete bollocks.
franchise
What? Hang
model.
on. So,
do you think?
Well, there's not been. What do you mean? Like, what the fear of being relegated? Like, I mean,
Apparently, that's what the report said.
Well, there ain't any relegation.
Yeah, there ain't any relegation. There hasn't been for years.
And if it was 2 or 3 teams, the same teams that didn't invest. Like, if you're bringing in a Geordie Barrett or a Rico Ioane into your team, you ain't getting relegated, bro.
No, you're not.
We've kind of segued there straight into the question about franchises. But what do you know about this new franchise proposal?
Not masses, to be honest, because there isn't masses of information out there. But obviously, I think they want to expand it to a 12-team league with potentially 14 as a consideration further down the line. No relegation, centralised commercial operations, including broadcast, merchandise rights, kit deals, like an NFL commissioner. But then my question on that is, if you're asking for people to come in and invest in it, who are you asking? Because people invest in sport to a club for a passion and for I want this club to move up and win things. But if you're doing it all centrally, I don't know how that works either. So a league rebrand as well. Basically, someone in marketing's trying to make a shitload of money somewhere, and putting all these ideas in. But I don't know enough about the whole ins and outs of it. We've read one article on how it looks, but undeniably, we need a seismic change in how rugby's finances are run at the minute, because if we carry on this path, the game will be dead in 5 or 10 years.
Right, well, let's switch it back on then for a bit of positivity. So football does a lot of things really well. Go back to the original chat. What could rugby take from football to improve the overall game? Or is there anything?
I got a mega TV deal globally, which funds absolutely everything of the game. What does football do well? Look at Manchester United now. Manchester United were the biggest brand in the world and had all the success, but through mismanagement, through owners that came in and saw it as a cash cow and didn't invest in the stadium and the squad and everything that went with it and have good people making good decisions on a football basis, their brand is now, for want of a better expression, weak as piss at the minute compared to what it was, right? And Jim, I know you're a Man United fan, but that is sport, right? Sport, you're never going to always get it 100% right. You have your moments, you have your period of dominance, and then it's about trying to regenerate and the circle of life within sport and trying to hold on to that success for as long as possible. So there's equally bad things in football. Yes, there's all the money, but the money is driven by the TV deal because it is a global game and people across the world want to watch the Premier League, and that's why there's so much money in it. You know, it's not because of season ticket sales or bums on seats in stadiums or selling merchandise for the majority of the clubs. It's because they've got the global stars there because they can pay them through the TV deal, which is something that rugby just can't do because no one in any other country, bar a few, you know, England and a few dotted around Europe potentially, want to watch the Premiership. Or, you know, how many people in the UK now watch Super Rugby? I used to watch Super Rugby religiously. Don't watch it anymore. Might flick on some highlights because the competition's died in my eyes. And so this is the difference between where rugby and football is. Football's a global game. Rugby is a global game, but not everyone around the globe wants to watch the specific leagues that are going on, and that's where the strength of the Premier League football is.
And that's where the strength of Six Nations, the Championship and World Cup. So look, we've had this chat privately, and I can't remember if I've said this, and I'll try not to swear as much as I am. So I'll just say this. Other sports now, NRL is a perfect example where the NRL were, okay? And now they've gone F you. This is what we are as a sport, the way that they put their highlights package together. They've gone to Vegas, the way that it's all marketed, the way that it's franchised. And back to that question again, at the minute, if you were to say to a new fan, explain rugby and the landscape of the leagues and the calendar and the TV, you couldn't do it.
No.
Okay, UFC, NFL, NBA, if we use them as the three biggest sports, soccer as well, football as well. So easy to explain, the dynamics of it. So we have got so much work to do before we start talking about franchising, away fans. Do we want to be like football? Do we want to be like the NRL? Do we want to be this? Do we want to be that? We need to understand what we are as a game. And the only way that is dictated, but back to my initial point that I was going to say, that I sound like a broken record, the fans will dictate the direction of our sport. And I watched the Bristol-Leicester game and the stadium was a quarter full at Ashton Gate, one of the great rugby stadiums at the weekend. The same with Goodey on Super Rugby, used to watch it all the time. I just watch snippets on highlights and stuff like that now. The fans will dictate the direction of our sport. And at the minute, they ain't liking certain parts of it because they're not turning out. There's certain parts of the games, these innovations that we're doing, trying to grow the game. You know, we need to do this, we need to do that. And the fans ain't turning up. They're not paying the ticket price to go. Internationally, the Six Nations, the Championships, the Autumn Nation Series and the Men's World Cup, they're sold out and they could sell them out 3 times over. The fans will dictate the direction of our sport. And if they're watching on free-to-air TV and there's millions of people watching, well, there you go. That's what they want. Give the fans more, okay? And stop pissing about with all this other bollocks that we're doing, excuse language.
Yeah, the point on that, Jim, you make about the fans dictating, you only have to look at Judgment Day in Wales at the weekend. A few years ago, 60,000 people went to the Millennium Stadium to watch it. This year, 22,500 went to the Millennium Stadium. And so that, you know, there's a stark warning of how rugby is in Wales and how, you know, without investment and all the trouble that they're in, that's where everyone else will follow if we don't put our foot on the throat now and start chucking money and investment and making sure that the fans are heard and listened to.
Rob, you said it was going to be positive. You just said the last segment. Come on. What we got, Rob?
Right. I've got some positivity now. So, speaking of being fan first, it's the return of listeners' questions.
Oh, okay. All right, then. Okay.
Here we go. We
literally had about 1,500 questions come in. So I've picked the best 5 or 6.
All righty. Hit us then.
Ewan has asked, what does Johnny Sexton's inclusion in the Lions coaching setup mean for Lions selection of 10? Does it guarantee Prendergast and harm Finn Russell's chances?
Andrew, I'm gonna ask you this question because you're involved in the drama, right? And all the rumours, and you love that. That's where you thrive. I had no idea that there was beef between Johnny Sexton and Finn Russell until I saw a couple of comments last week. What do you know?
Yeah. I think it's all blown up to be just a Johnny Sexton thing, right? Because they're different characters. I don't think there's any real beef there. Interestingly, you know, people look for a headline and they've blown that up for that reason. Finn is head and shoulders above any 10 at the minute for me, so you can't not pick him. But what it does do is it brought me back to a conversation that Rob had And Rob mentioned about the lack of experience for some of the other fly halves behind Finn, and when he was trying to push George Ford going with 99 caps. So does Johnny Sexton on the coaching panel therefore fill that void of a lack of experience for a Finn Smith, for a Prendergast? And I think that's more of the reasoning, because he can mentor these guys. Johnny Sexton's been there, done it on Lions tours, right? He was in New Zealand in 2017. He was in Australia in 2013. He was in He wasn't in South Africa in 21. Apologies. Yeah, that he got a bit pissed off about that one. But in reality, what a brain to pick. So I don't think it harms Finn Russell's chances at all. Finn is head and shoulders. Look at the way he's playing for Bath. He is head and shoulders above any 10 at the minute, in my opinion. But you've got Prendergast there who can lean on him and does lean on him from an Irish perspective. I think that secures his place on the tour. And then there's an argument to take Finn Smith as well, who's playing incredibly well at the minute. And way ahead of Marcus Smith in terms of on-field performance. So if you're thinking about worrying about a lack of experience, you've got Finn at the top of his game with loads of experience. You've got two other guys, and you've got Johnny Sexton as a mentor. I think it's, he's got people like, he hasn't coached internationally. He's not going as a lead coach, is he? He is going as a supporting coach with ideas, knowing Faz, having worked closely with Faz as a player and now a coach in the Ireland setup. And I think he'll add huge value to the fly halves and to the attacking game and to basically just what is the British and Irish Lions. It's basically the Irish Lions. We'll call it the Irish Lions from now on.
And not that the game or the British and Irish Lions needs profile, but he adds that. He adds that profile around the tournament and the talking points and everything that's going to live around that. Brilliant appointment by Andy Farrell.
Right then, Jay Routley has asked you, who's your favourite player to watch in the Prem currently? So fanboyers, who do you like watching?
Tommy Freeman performs ridiculously well. Finn Smith, big fan of him, fanboy of Finn Smith now. Finn Russell. And lastly, what I will add is, not just because of his ridiculous offload at the weekend, but Ravovo for Bristol. Every time he plays.
What is he?
That alone.
How good is he? Yeah. Just for that reason, Ravovo playing the centres this weekend for Bristol, he is silly good.
Go on, Rob.
Jim, who have you got? You must have some forwards.
Theo Dan. I know you tweeted about him.
Yeah, shout.
I think he's definitely got an opportunity. Rotti Shagan on the wing for Sarries is playing well as well. That's just a name too. Apologies about that. Seb Atkinson has really turned up. A lot of the Gloucester players have actually turned up towards the end of the season as well. Thomas Williams has been brilliant for the Premiership this season. Been a little bit quieter in the last couple of games, but he's been unbelievable. He has, there's a few.
Abatoya at Bristol has been class this year.
Apart from that ridiculous offload at the weekend. But the game was done. But
he scored a few tries between them, yeah.
He's been out injured for a while though, Rob, so I'm not having that one at the minute. Can't have that.
Rob, hit us some more, mate. Come on.
Goodey's mentioned, I like the Saints, lads. I really like watching Finn Smith play. I love the way they attack.
And then you've probably got to say it, haven't you, at the minute, on form, the last one that no one's mentioned. I'm going to say Henry Pollock, me old bollock.
Yes, sir.
Well, this one's for Jim, actually. Gareth's asked if you were okay after JJ humbled you in that race you put on your Instagram story.
Yeah, it started, James. It has started.
And JJ
the son is faster than the dad.
And he's not a quick lad either. Do you know what I mean? It's not as if it's like he's rapid. 2 out of the 4 are quick, and he ain't one of them. So, I mean, just for context, I had my Birkenstocks on, and we did a race earlier, and it fell off. And I did it in barefoot, and I stood on a stone, and it feels like I've had the worst verruca you've ever had in your life. So I was partially injured, but I did want to win that race, and I would have ruptured my Achilles to beat him, and I didn't. So if I trained as well, I definitely would have. But that's where we're at now. It's competitive, It's competitive. And I'm worried now that he's that much of a sore loser that if I was in front of him, he'd tackle me from behind.
And Judas, mate, it's starting. So once your son beats you at a running race, the next up, there'll be a bit of wrestling. He'll have you at wrestling in a bit. bit of boxing, bit of cycling, bit of anything. It's a slippery slope now, James, as a dad. I've got daughters, so I've got no qualms with that stuff. But when your son, you know that one day when your son looks at you and he knows he's got you. It's not coming soon, but it will come at some point.
That's the change of guard, and that's what we've always said. And there is an old school element to that, but we wrestle, like we fight healthily. We don't, obviously I don't leather him, and I let him leather me. He actually perforated my eardrum a couple of years ago, as you know, lads. Needs surgery on it. But once that time comes, right, that moment comes, he gets the keys to the car, but he can get the car to the Tesla now because I've put it through the business because it's tax efficient. He might not want it, but at that point, if he does take me on and he beats me, the keys are his. He can have the house, he can have the car. I'm saying 58 could be the age in which he can take me. I don't know what he'll be. I can't work out the maths, but he'll be a grown man.
There you go. That's 10 years' time for you, Jim. So just add on 10.
So someone who wanted to remain anonymous has asked, is Bristol's top 4 campaign coming off the rails? A few big losses at home this year.
It's off.
It's off, do you reckon?
Well, I don't know.
Who makes top 4?
Well, actually,
who they make top 4?
I don't think... Well, who they got? Who's their next game?
They're away at Northampton.
So there you go, Rob. They're away at Northampton. Sarries versus Sale's a big one on Friday night. I'm going to that. I look at Bristol and they're a brilliant team to watch. Like they're a really exciting team to watch. And I was chatting to my mate who's a Bristol fan. He's like, back end of the season we haven't been very good, but if we can get into the top 4, we could beat anyone on our day. And I just beg to differ. I think the way that they play, which is so loose and exciting, I don't think you beat a Bath. I don't know if you beat a Sarries. He got humped at the weekend by Leicester, who I know they were desperate for the win, and that keeps them in the top 4 shout. I don't want to be hard on Bristol. They're a brilliant team, well coached, great players. They've had their fair share of injuries this year with some of their best players, but they could still make top 4 because Northampton are where they are, and the semi-final is a big game for them. Can they make top? I don't think they do. I just say that now. I don't think they do. I think that, I don't know. Next week I'll tell you. Because it's the Sarries Sale. I don't want a snowflake, but the Sarries Sale one's going to be really interesting with how Sale played at the weekend and how Sarries played in the second half against Gloucester.
I'm going to say Bath, Leicester, Saracens and Sale make top 4. Not in that order. Bath will finish top. Sale are on a fabulous run at the minute.
My word.
Looking good. Yeah, that's a big win for Leicester away. They've got to back it up this weekend against Quins. They do have Newcastle at home, I think, as the last game of the season as well. And Saracens are Saracens. I think that performance against Gloucester at the weekend was fantastic. In a bit of a statement of, hold on, we're still here knocking around the top 4 and we've got international quality throughout our team. So I'm going to go Bath, Sale, Leicester and Sarries as my top 4.
I agree.
So last listener's question then. T Fryer 90 has asked, do you think the Lions would ever tour France? Imagine the midweek games versus top 14 clubs. I actually think this is a great idea. I've seen this banded around quite a lot this year. I think this would be a class idea.
I'll start on this because while everyone thinks it's a class idea, and in theory it is a class idea, all I'm going to say is look at how France tour in the summers internationally. Because the top 14 is so brutal and the amount of games they play, they never send their big boys on tour. And there's this whole argument at the minute around the French sending their big boys to New Zealand and whether they're going to go or not. And there's rules around I think the finalist teams, they're not allowed to tour with the French team after that anymore. The French season, and Jim and I both played in it, is the most brutally long season you have ever seen in your life. I played Toulon away as the opening game of the top 14 on something like the 8th of August. And it went all the way through to June next year. So while romantically, it's a bloody great idea, same old thing with rugby, logistically, how the hell are you doing it? The midweek games would be class, but you've got Lions players playing against club teams who are absolutely battered from the toughest league ever. And so unless you can move the calendar and move the top 14, I don't think it's a goer, but in theory, it would be unbelievable if you could do it where the top 14 teams, the top teams of that, so your Toulons, your Toulouses, your Bordeaux, are fully stacked to go against the Lions. But I just think in this day and age, it's not possible.
Taking the logistics and any roadblocks in the way, and there are many, it'd be an unbelievable idea. Imagine the British and Irish Lions going to France, the commercial cash cow that it will stir up. Everyone keeps talking about the US, everyone keeps talking about this, and India, and we'll get onto that and all of these different things. Mate, go where rugby is at its strongest. Go to France by hook or crook, whether or not you have to rejig the season or you take out an Autumn Nation series. I don't know what it is, but you want to do something different. You want to do something with innovation. Send them to France, where the nicotine smoke is poofing around and they do night games proper. And, you get your DuPonts, you get your highest profile players in the Northern Hemisphere competing with the biggest international team, which is the British and Irish Lions team of the Northern Hemisphere versus France, who would have something to say about that as well. Right then, Andrew, all the talk of franchising and all the talk of innovation. Our next guest, Rahul Bose, who is the current president of India Rugby, former national player and Bollywood actor. I've actually played against him. We've got him on the show now.
There we go.
Yeah, here we go. Let's find out what it's all about. Let's find out what's happening in India. Rahul, we played against each other back in the day when my name was James. It was a close encounter. I scored a hat-trick and I didn't run through you because you were chopping Henry Tuilagi. You played in that Leicester Tigers match, didn't you, versus India?
My God, yes, it was incredibly forgettable.
Not for me. It was my legacy, Rahul. I scored 3 tries. I'm happy. Come on, you go.
They played with their development squad and they beat us by over 100 points.
No, no. That weren't the development squad, Rahul. Rahul, that was me, Henry Tuilagi and the boys. No, that was Henry Tuilagi and the boys, mate. But you played in that game, didn't you?
Yes.
What are your memories from that then? Just to let the listeners know, because I speak about that day all the time, scoring a hat-trick.
It was very cold and I don't think I touched a human being.
Rahul, I tell you now, you tackled Henry Tuilagi 3 or 4 times. And we had a monster at number 8 and they said this Bollywood actor keeps tackling him. That was you.
No,
you are infamous in Leicester.
I think you're just taking the piss.
No, I promise you, that isn't the case. You speak to anyone, I promise you. But anyway, it's great that we're back connected. Maybe just give us an outline of what the RPL is and everything. There's some exciting news coming out of India into our game of rugby union.
Rugby in India is played by the poorest of the poor. It is not a rich person's game. It is not a posh person's game. It is not a public school game. It is a game played in the rural hinterlands of India. And while we don't do a caste census, we would reckon that out of our 100,000 odd players across the country, an overwhelming majority of them come from what we call scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, which are possibly the most financially excluded people in our pyramid in this country. So once you understand that, and you couple that with another statistic, which is India is roughly divided into 760 districts of about 2 million people each, which is a considerable number, but there you go. And out of the 760 districts in this country, this sport is played in 322. So 40% of Indian districts play rugby, but nobody knows because we're not on mass media and we don't have massive sponsors. So if you're looking at the growth of a sport in any country, in any era, any epoch, Indian cricket, for example, started in 1932. We played our first test match and we had a really significant victory in England and West Indies in 1971. That's 40 years after a 12-nation sport. You could rise to some kind of recognition in a 12-nation sport. So when you have 150 nations playing a sport, how on earth are you going to get to the top 25 nations, even if it's rugby sevens, which arguably could be an easier format to shine in as opposed to rugby 15s? You're still talking 50, 75 years. And, we don't have that time. Certainly I don't. I have one foot in the grave already. So I was thinking, how can we actually accelerate? Have you guys watched Star Wars?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when Han Solo presses that Mach 5 button or whatever you call it, and all the stars that are passing by very slowly as the spaceship goes through suddenly blur into this arrows of light because the spaceship shoots through. So that what could be that kind of effect for Indian rugby to compress those 50, 75 years to 20, 30 years? And we said it should be a league Because when a league is done very well, it has two transformative actions. One is internal and one is external. The internal transformative action that it has is there are 6 teams or 8 teams or whatever, in our case, 6, and therefore 6 cities. And so immediately after June 15th, when the league gets over, all the teams are going to be hungry for more Indian players. Where are the Indian players? So you can be in Chennai in the south of India, but you can scour the whole country looking for good talent, as all leagues do. And so you'll have 6 cities, 6 regional centers looking for talent, gathering the talent, bringing them into a city like Mumbai or Chennai, and then they have to have a camp. So they need a ground, they need a physio, they need sports science facilities, they need nutrition, physiotherapy, a psychologist, etc. So you're going to have 6 regional mini ecosystems of rugby, which will help. The federation does 100 times more work than that, but it's 6 ecosystems that weren't there earlier. That's the internal engine that's going to happen with the employment of support staff as well as players getting more opportunity. So you're going to have kids saying, I would like to play one day for that team, and which earlier they didn't. Externally, and this is not nothing I'm saying is so amazingly revelatory. You're going to be on television. You're going to be on Geo Hotstar, and whether it's 1 million or 5 million people who watch it, in 15 days' time, every time you walk into a sponsor's office after that, they're going to know who you are. They're going to know what your sport is. Or you walk into a government office looking for employment opportunities for your players or for infrastructure, or you walk into a television broadcaster's office. Nobody's going to say, rugby? What was that again? Does anybody even play rugby in this country? So when a league is done correctly and really well, these are the effects a league will have. And so we obviously decided that if you're going to then have a league, we have to make it the best in the world. And because we are international players in the federation, because we have the deepest reverence. I keep saying rugby has taught me more than my parents taught me, and this is the truth. How could we not approach this in a way that would be correct, rich, deep, and lasting? So this league is not around for a year. All the team owners have signed on for many, many years. Our stakeholders have signed on for many, many years. And so when we actually got down to doing it, we looked at all the various leagues in India. Some had failed, some are okay, and some are doing very well. And we learned from the mistakes, and we said, what are the things that somebody that did a league very well did correctly? And the first thing we spotted was, I don't know whether you guys follow cricket, but the IPL started 18 years ago. And if I'm not wrong, gents, the ICC gave a 45-day window 18 years ago for the IPL to be held so that no cricket would be played of that format anywhere in the world at the time. And so what you had was the best players in the world available for the IPL. And we said, that's what we have to first unlock. It took about 2 years with World Rugby, who've been fantastic partners. And we got that window of 15 days from June 1st to 15th. Right. Now we have the global window. Now the players are going to be free. So what are we going to do? How are we going to get them? So the World Rugby guys were very clear. They said, look, you have to convince the players. We are not. So I met 23 of the best players in the world at Perth during the HSBC 7 series. And they had 4 questions. The first question is, when is it? Gave them the dates. Oh, we're free. Second question, how much are you paying? World Rugby had recommended the price to pay for the top players in the world. We named that price. They were like, cool. For 2 weeks of training and 2 weeks of rugby, 10 games in 15 days, easy. Third, where is it? Mumbai, this is the ground, this is the stadium. World Rugby has passed it on all 80 parameters. Okay, great, looks good. And finally, because elite athletes all over the world would ask this question, like, who are the coaches? And this is where we pulled 6 rabbits out of a hat, because we already had the coaches signed. So we had Tomasi Kama, we had DJ Forbes, we had Mike Friday, Ben Gollings, Tim Walsh, Santi from Argentina, who now is undergoing a hernia operation, so he can't make it, Paco. And so they were like, you guys aren't messing around. And we said, no, we're not messing around. We want this to be amazing. We want this to be really good. And that's when we began to get them on board through their federations. And once we had that, then of course, team owners, broadcaster was a big piece of the puzzle. There was Jio and Star Sports in India and Sony, the 3 horses in town. And two of the horses melded into one horse. I don't know what you would call that. And it was Geo and Hotstar, Geo Star Sports getting together. And we thought, would we get an offer from these big boys? And we did. And we got an offer from Sony, and we're still very friendly with Sony, but we decided to go with Geo Hotstar. And that unlocked the sponsors. Sponsors are always going to ask, who's your broadcaster? So, we followed the processes as beautifully as we could to make sure that what we have is something that's not a fluke, that's going to be of quality. And finally, gents, you know this, Rugby Sevens is made for television. I was speaking to somebody from the broadcaster, watching the game. He was watching the game for the first time in his life at the Hong Kong Sevens 3 weeks ago. And he said, you don't need to do anything with this. This is amazing. So I said, tell me why. He said, it's so easy to understand. I didn't tell him the rules. He said, it's very clear that you run to put the ball across the line. On the way, you're going to get smashed. You're going to get up, regroup, pick up the ball, go again, or lose the ball, tackle, regain the ball, and go again. And that's pretty much it. So I said, yes, that is it. And he said, in a 14-minute game, there are about 7 to 10 scores. So I said, yes. He said, that means there's an event, a dopamine hit, as he called it, every 100 to 120 seconds in this game for the audience. I said, yes. He said, and in between that, there are events. There's a smash tackle. There's somebody making a break. There's the incredible visuals of people racing in contact to get the ball. And so essentially what you have is an event-packed 14 minutes. And that's good for television. And the slow motion replays look fantastic. So, we don't have to do anything. We just have to bring it out in front of the Indian public and see how they respond. We have a sport called Kabaddi in India. I don't know whether you've ever seen that. But that's
Kabaddi, yeah.
In a congested space, it's a lot of contact, but not at speed, not at velocity. And so it's Kabaddi meets football on a football field. It's that. And so, I truly would never have been foolish enough to do this if we didn't believe in the format. And the format is electric.
Can you just explain to the listeners what the RPL actually is? Like how many teams played across how many weeks? Is it a micro tournament? How many years has it been licensed for? All of these things.
So it's 6 teams. It's a double round robin. Every team plays each other twice. So you play 10 games. And then, of course, there's a semi-final, final, and a third and fourth place. So that's approximately 33 games or 34 games. There will be 2 games a day from Monday to Thursday. And Friday, Saturday, Sundays will have 3 games. The only tweak we've made is to the length of the game. It's not 2 halves of 7 minutes. It's 4 quarters of 4 minutes each with a 2-minute break in between each quarter. So it's a 22-minute game, allowing for timeout, this clock being stopped, injuries, etc. Let's say 30 minutes. So it's an hour of broadcast with a lead in and lead out. So it's an hour and 20 minutes of broadcast in an evening, 7:30 in the evening to 9 o'clock Indian Standard Time. And in the weekends, when there are 3 games, it's 7:30 to 9:30. It's 2 hours. 6 franchises, 6 cities: Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, Bhubaneswar. So 6 cities. How many years have the team owners signed on for? Nothing in the short term. Nothing. We're not talking 5 or 7 years. We're talking way beyond that. So this is very interesting because there are 2 ways to approach team owners. One is to build a really rosy picture of the financials and what's going to happen and all of that, and deal with potential disappointment, down the years. But we don't function that way as a federation. So we just presented it as it is. Like, look, you're not going to make money in year 2 or year 3. It's going to be 4 or 5. It could be earlier, but this is the scenario. This is the kind of money outlay you're going to be putting in. So we finally attracted team owners who were wise, sober, successful, and believed. So it takes the pressure off you when you have team owners who know the lay of the land before they get into it, as opposed to always trying to keep up that exaggerated version of what you're going to be presenting that you did on the first day. So, that's not the way we'd like to operate. What else can I tell you about the bare bones of the league? It's being held in Mumbai at the Andheri Sports Complex. We had a draft. So each team has 13 players, 5 marquee players from the top tier nations of the world. So we have players from New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Argentina, Spain, England, Ireland, Fiji. And we have 3 bridge players per team because there's going to be a gulf between the best of India and the best in the world. And so we have bridge players from Germany, Hong Kong, and Canada. So there'll be 5 marquee players, 3 bridge players, and 5 Indian players. So 13 players in your squad. At a time on the field, stipulated in the league rules is 2 marquee players always on the field, 2 bridge players always on the field, and 2 Indian players always on the field. The 7th person you can choose, who to put on the field at any point of time. So so that would be the composition. And what else would you like to know?
Why? Why are people doing this in India? Do they see a commercial value to this? Because the game is in an interesting spot in England and there's all these restructuring going on. There's talk about franchising the Premiership. And you'll know, Rahul, you played the game. I'm sure you've got a keen eye on it. What is the reason behind this investment in India when you have cricket as your number one sport? Why rugby?
First of all, there's a lot of space, both commercially as well as fan base-wise, in a country as massive as India. Look, I enjoy watching golf as much as I enjoy watching rugby. As long as it's a television sport, I'm in it. So there's no reason why you can't do both. Second, it is incredibly exciting because Indians are already used to kabaddi and Indians are already used to football. And if you put the two together, and I'm just being crude, I'm using the analogy somebody else used, it's not mine, you're gonna find something that's really attractive and key, really short and easy to understand. You don't need to know anything more than pass, catch, tackle, kick, score. Pass, catch, tackle, score, in fact, kick after that. It's just, that's all you need to know in the first season.
And do you have a message, Rahul, just lastly, to the rugby world? We've got a really dialed in audience, an amazing kind of cult following. But I know a lot of people will be listening to this with real interest. Do you have a message to the game of rugby, to fans, potential fans of the game, of what you're trying to do?
So anybody who's played rugby will realize you can't play the game alone. If you try and play it alone, you will end up in hospital or the morgue. And that's the same for life. So when we embark on this journey with all the quality and excellence that we can summon in ourselves, we need everybody. We need everybody to be together. Because if you have to move forward, I learned even outside the field, you have to take people with you. So here we are. We're trying to move forward. We'd like to take everybody with us. Here you are. You're watching us. And we'd love for you to take us forward with you. We'll do this together. We can't do it alone.
Yeah, well, Rahul, it's really cool to have you, mate. The game needs people like you. It needs people with invested interest. It needs innovators. And to hear someone in India in the middle of that, starting in the sevens, who knows where it's going to go. So it's been really cool to hear your thoughts and your passion. And like, you thought I was joking earlier. I know that we beat India comfortably and my legacy lies on the hat-trick that I scored. But I remember you from the game. I said to producer Rob, and he'll testify to this, that Henry Tuolangi, one of the biggest, best players arguably to have ever played the game, was tackled consistently by the scrum half of India on that day. And that scrum half was you. And he never scored a try that game. And I genuinely mean that. Within our group at Leicester Tigers, and we had some legends, they remember that game. It was brilliant. It was culturally a big shift for a lot of us, but it was an amazing game to be a part of and part of my journey on this podcast and story. So for that reason alone, it's been really cool to have you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Lots of love. Cheers.
Top lad.
Top lad. Yeah, tell the rupees that. Let's get after them.
Yeah, fair play. You've got people that want to invest in the game. I'm all for it. Let's go and see what happens. India, rugby, and if it's a success like the IPL.
The rugby pod.
Yeah, it works.
Right then, lads. In other news?
Right, Andrew. In other news. What we got? In other news. Well, actually, this one I am loving, and I've been in contact with these people about potentially getting involved, however that may look. Run it straight, league. Run it back. Run it straight, boys. No, not me doing it.
Okay, thank God for that.
Well, we could do it. There could be a veterans one.
You've just lost to a 14-year-old boy in a sprint race, and now you're talking about taking on Nadolo and George Burgess. What are you thinking?
No, I'm not thinking anything. And I'm trying to work out, right, whether or not this concept is like the power slap version of the UFC, which I do not believe in, or whether there's actually a space. I think the people in the US are going to absolutely love it. And it's a cool idea. I mean, there's going to need to be some insurance and medical waivers that are going to need to be signed early on. But you look at the social channels, and it's called Run It. At Run It AU, I think it is. Rob, just double check the social media platform, because they are creating some really cool content. And for the listeners, if you don't know what it is, it's basically two of the biggest, most powerful humans running straight at each other. You're not allowed to step. I think doesn't even matter. The channel could be 5 or 10 meters. I think it might be 10 meters, and you are running Route 1 China Chief, and it's whoever gets sat down is the loser, effectively. I mean, it ain't the safest. I ain't condoning it. But fucking hell, I'm watching it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like, you watch that power slap stuff, you see it pop up on social media. Joe Rogan's getting behind it now. UFC 15 years ago, however long everyone was like, "Oh, mate, that's brutal." Everyone watches it now. Not everyone, but the following is huge. So you want short social clips. You want to see a man go after a man and run as hard as you can at each other and see who the king is. It is engaging to watch, right? I wouldn't ever put my hand up to do it, but I'd love to watch it.
I mean, it's like, it can be seen as idiotic, right? But men are idiots. And this is what you have to try and break down here. And these Polynesian guys that are fronting it as well, they are absolute monsters. The question needs to be, Rob, and maybe it's a question for now, maybe it's one where we can help build the narrative for them, is if you could pick one player from your country, old or young, who would you want it to be? So if you think, right, you've got these Polynesian warriors, like a Henry Tuolangi, you put him in his prime, right? You'd be like...
every day.
I'm telling you now, he's winning, right? Unless he's up against the Bollywood star who was chopping him. Rahul was chopping him every time. But you're not allowed to do. I think you have to go high. What South African player would you put in? Do you know what I mean? Would you, a Pierre Spies, for example, would he be the one that you put in? Or would you want someone that's like more compact? I don't know. I mean, I'd Ollie LaRue, mate. Scott Gibbs sat him down. Maybe Scott Gibbs at the age of 60 or whatever he is. He'd be doing it all right.
Scott Gibbs would have been good in his prime. Manu Tuolangi from England probably is the one, although he's not blessed with height. Oh, my power. He's sitting someone down. Basically, you're going back to who's the biggest Polynesian that's ever played for each country. Or,
Billy. Billy used to run it straight, didn't he?
Yeah, Billy run it straight, to be fair.
He did, but he wasn't quick though, was he? Like, you got to be quick and powerful as well.
I think it's weight. Yeah,
it's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, either way, Nandolo's doing it. I ain't tackling him. You would fancy Nandolo, Jim?
I saw the size of him, so I clicked on it. But he's up against mate. Anyone else? But he's up against a Burgess. He's up against one of the Burgess brothers, who is, and we saw them, didn't we, at Ed Slater's game and Rob Burrow and the MND game up in Leeds. We saw one of the Burgess. What Burgess was it? It wasn't George Burgess that we saw. Luke Burgess.
No, it's the one. Luke. Yeah.
Oh my goodness me, they are big. So this Run It Straight. Don't know whether I condone it. I wouldn't want my kids doing it, but fuck me, I'll be watching it.
Exactly. Another one, Jim. NFL superstars have joined the ownership group for Seattle Seawolves. So Marshawn Lynch and Marcus Peters have bought into the Seattle Seawolves. Apparently, they listened to our podcast the other week with the Chicago Hounds and Peter Burnick and just went, nah, we're going after Seattle. So NFL cash is coming into the Major League Rugby over in the States, boys.
Yes, it is, yeah. And we saw Mar Nonu is now, I don't know if he's an owner or an angel investor or a sweat equity investor of San Diego Legion. Yeah. But yeah, like, I'm all for this. I'm keen if the opportunity came up to buy Austin, Texas. Like, big shout out to the Austin Blacks team over there. Let's bring them up from the lower divisions to the higher divisions. Look, there's an interest, isn't there, from other sports. Rugby's a cheap option for people that want to own sports teams and invest in sports teams. And there's a bit of momentum gathering around the MLR and US rugby. And it's really cool to see.
There we go. Good man. Invest, James. throw money at the situation.
I know. Talking of money being thrown at the situation, I wonder how much he's getting paid. But Christian Wade, Rugby League, didn't see it coming, but I liked it coming. So he'll join Wigan Warriors on a short-term deal until the finish of the Super League season at the end of the season.
Yeah, I actually quite like it. I mean, Wadey has scored a truckload of tries in Union. He obviously went and gave NFL a go. He's not scared of giving things a go and putting himself out of his comfort zone. And I actually hope he goes there, and obviously he can play over the summer for Wigan Warriors, potentially get to grand final at Old Trafford. I don't know how good Wigan are at the minute, because I've lost. I used to watch a load of Rugby League as well. Don't watch that anymore. But I'll now have a little look with interest because Wadey's going there. And everyone was going, Chris Ashton's the happiest bloke ever because Christian Wade isn't going to take his record. I've got a sneaky feeling Wadey's going to go, probably win or do exceptionally well in Rugby League with Wigan Warriors, and then he's going to come back and nick Ashley's record next year. So in Union. So good luck to Wadey. Anyone that wants to try something different and take themselves out of their comfort zone, which going to the NFL and then coming back to Union and then obviously now going to Rugby League, I tip my hat to them because too many people stay in their lane, don't say anything, just get on with life. He's having to go and putting himself out there, so good on him. And
he's been good this season, in answer to Rob's question earlier. He's been really good this season for Gloucester, so he's a big reason why they've performed well. So, yeah, good luck to him.
Right, Goodey, do you want to hit us with the good, the bad and the ugly?
Yeah, let's start off with the good then. And we're going to start off in Wales. And Cardiff beat the Ospreys on Judgment Day to move themselves up to 6th in the URC. So big shout out to Cardiff. What else? In the URC, there were big away wins for the Sharks up in Edinburgh, for Benetton over in South Africa against the Lions, for Glasgow against Zebra. So big away wins there. In the Premiership, there were some big away wins as well. Bath, Saints and Sharks all had big away wins, so shout out goes to all those teams. The Bulls get a shout out this week as well. Not only did they win away, as we're talking about away victories, they won away at Munster as the first South African team to win at Thomond Park, so shout out to them, but also the first South African team in URC history to beat all 4 Irish provinces in a season. So big shout out to Jake White and the Bulls boys. Dan Sheehan gets a shout out in the good again. Of course he does, on fire. He scored a hat-trick in just over 20 minutes coming off the bench for Leinster. Leicester Tigers get a shout out this week in the good. Their big win down at Bristol. We're talking about away victories, but that moved them up to 2nd. So a big shout out to the Leicester Tigers boys. But the good this week is going to go to one Leicester Tigers boy. And I say this with great pride because he is a one-club man who has just called time on his career at the end of the season. He's got a few weeks left. He's going to try and win the trophy. It first started for him at Twickenham as a 17-year-old playing with Andy Goode. Yes, he did. He came off the bench for Leicester in the Prem final and got the pleasure, or the displeasure probably, of playing with me. Hopefully it finishes for him at Twickenham with another appearance for Leicester in the Prem final. But Ben Youngs is going to win the good this week. He's announced his retirement. England's most capped player with 127 caps. He's got over 330 appearances for Leicester as well. An absolute legend announcing his retirement. So Ben Youngs, you're going to win the good this week. Yeah, the bad, few bits of bad. Bristol, fairly blunt, very blunt actually, down at Ashton Gate, losing at home to Leicester on Sunday. Quins, 43-29 loss at home to Sale. Really bad. That is 3 losses on the spin now, conceding over 40 points in the last 3 games. The Dragons, of course, they get a mention in the bad this week. Another loss, this time to the Scarlets. Their record in the URC this year is now played 15, won 1, lost 14. So not great from the Dragons. That's why they're in the bad again. But the bad this week goes to Andrea Piardi. Absolute shambles as a ref at the weekend at Thomond Park. He reduced Munster to 14 men wrongly because they had to go to uncontested scrums because they lost their 2 tight head props. First of all, Ollie Jaeger to a HIA, but secondly, Stephen Archer went off. The rules is rules. If you go off as a tight head prop for a HIA, you don't have to reduce your team down to 14 men. If it does go to uncontested scrums. But Andrea Piardi and his refereeing team made an absolute balls up of it. Ken Dillon had to come off for 14 minutes before they realised their mistake and then let him go back on. So an absolute shambles, and that's why Andrea Piardi wins the bad this week. And then the ugly, only one bit of ugly really, and it's not for anything bad physically, because it wasn't bad physically, but Nolan Le Garrec is going to get the ugly this week. I mentioned it earlier in the season, too much simulation, too much play acting from loads of the players. Nothing worse than Nolan Le Garrec this weekend. He basically tried to get Bruce DeVoe sent off by taking a dive, pretending he'd been headbutted. It was absolutely pathetic. Hopefully, Nolan Le Garrec is getting abused by his teammates and people are giving him stick left, right and centre, because it was worse than what Ronaldo used to do. Absolutely embarrassing. Le Garrec, have a word with yourself. You win the ugly this week.
Couple of shout-outs to finish then, lads.
Oh, more than a couple. I think we've got a few as normal, Rob, and there's some happy and some sad. So let's start with the happy ones, Andrew.
We will. Shout out to the Dubai Tigers First 15, who just won the UAE Division 1 Grand Finals, and also to the Dundee Rugby Under-15s, who just became the first ever Dundee team to win a league and cup double in the same year. So well done, boys. But also the Dubai Hurricanes. They're the South Asia champs or something. They won the Premiership title in Dubai at the weekend. I was invited to go, but I was in Nobu instead. And they beat Bahrain, Jim, who we were supposed to go and do a dinner with not so long ago. So shout out to loads of people out here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a very contrasted lifestyle to Dubai is the Kilmarnock Rugby Club, because they've just won the West 1 Regional League, which is their first title in 30 years. So get in the Kilmarnock, boys. Good on you, and pray for sun.
There we go. And talking about strange and bizarre places.
Who's talking about strange and bizarre? What, Kilmarnock? It's not that strange.
Yeah, well, we're going all over the place. We've gone to Dubai, to Kilmarnock. This one, we're going to Finland. So we're going to give a massive shout out and good luck message to the Finland national team, who are aiming to beat Latvia for the first ever time this weekend in the Rugby Europe Men's Conference. Apparently, they're all big fans of the pod, and that's all you need to get a shout out on this show. So good luck for your game, Rugby Brothers in Finland, which is also Onnea. That's what Rob says is brothers in Finnish. Onnea, my rugby, Onnea.
Oh, Onnea.
It's good luck in Finnish.
Oh, is it Onnea?
Oh, is it good luck, is it?
Yeah,
there you go.
Something, apparently.
Onnea is good luck in Finnish. So all the best, lads.
Oh, yeah, all the best. Yeah, let's be having you. I do wonder sometimes, when we do hello, whether that is casual racism or play on. So hopefully it's play on.
No,
and it's done out of endearment and love. It is. Right, we've got some sad ones, unfortunately, but thank you for sending these in. We do like reading them and giving these people a shout out every week. So here we go. So we need to give a shout out after the passing of Hungerford and Newbury legend Bob Bolton. I've seen a load of this stuff flying around on social media, but he sadly lost his 10-year battle with cancer on Good Friday last week. He'll be sadly missed by all the clubs he was involved in. So from everyone at the Rugby Pod, we send our sincere condolences to Bob's friends and family.
Yeah, we certainly do. Another sad one. Dylan has been in touch to ask for a special shout out for his stepdad, David, who was former chair of New Milton Rugby Club. Unfortunately, he had to step down a couple of years ago and has been seriously ill for a few years since. Due to his legendary status at the club, a game in his honour will be played to raise money to help him and his family with the rising costs associated with his care. So please get involved with that. The New Milton Rugby Club, have a look and support David wherever you can, please.
Yeah, thanks very much for that one. And finally, a shout out to Henry Rose, who's a massive fan of the pod. So hello to Henry. And he's running the London Marathon this weekend for Mind. He's raising awareness and funds for the cause, which is very close to his heart. So if you can, support him at justgiving.com/page/Rosie runs the London Marathon. So I think if you go to Just Giving and search for Rosie runs the London Marathon, you'll find the page there. But most importantly, talk to your mates. We're seeing some ridiculous stats that keep coming out year on year on year around mental health and male suicide. And it's a tough line to say that. It's a tough phrase to say, but it's true and it's a fact. So a big shout out to Henry Rose on the London Marathon.
Yeah, 100%.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks, lads. Right, enjoy.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure you have Followed all our socials because Rob is forever trying to find videos of Dan Bigger. But make sure, in the main, that you have subscribed to the #1 podcasting platform and music platform, as Jim Hamilton says. Just make sure you subscribed on Spotify.
That a boy.